The code the Japanese once lived by, much like other mostly extinct moralities, continually serves to fascinate people today. Just as we marvel at the hard, sun-baked cowboys of the Wild West, so too do we fixate on the idea of the wandering samurai bound by strained codes that are foreign to us today. What is this code? How was it born? And then, perhaps most importantly, how did it die? Although Bushido, as the word for the code followed by samurai, was only really popularized in 1900, the code went unspoken for centuries in feudal Japan, through peace and war. To give a clear picture, feudal Japan was separated into distinct classes, with the emperor at the top, followed by the military leader, the shogun, the clan leaders called daimyo, then samurai, then peasants, then merchants. Mobility throughout these classes wasn't really an option, as almost everything rested on family name. Moreover, loyalty between these levels was simultaneously colossal and one-sided. The shogun had to display exceptional loyalty to the emperor, the daimyo to the shogun, the samurai to the daimyo, and so forth. In exchange for this, the higher-ups showed benevolence to those below. In this way, certain attitudes became paramount to gain and maintain status in feudal Japan. Extreme and unswerving loyalty was demanded. Samurai were trained to think that their life was nothing but a tiny bubble in the ocean of time, and that the most important thing in life was to achieve an honourable death, either in the battlefield or by ritual suicide, called Harakiri or seppuku. This was to ensure samurai acted primarily in battle for the lives of their superior, and not their own. Therefore, consequences to betraying these attitudes were harsh. If a samurai lost a battle, whether it be large in scale or on a one-on-one duel, ritual suicide was expected. This certainly would have provided the high incentive to win battles. If this was not performed, the samurai, his family, and his family name would be besmirched, and would lose their privileged status, essentially moving down to either the peasant or the merchant class. So, for generations, the samurai, and eventually the whole of Japan, were brought up to prioritize certain values of extreme loyalty to their superiors, and not just a willingness, but an active desire to die in battle. There was also a certain militaristic pride carried in Japanese culture that flared because of its military history. This meant that even when the samurai became obsolete and effectively wiped out with the introduction of gunpowder, Bushido values remained. And, soon enough, the world became more than acquainted with this Japanese code. Say, do the terms Japan, die-hard loyalty, and death wish ring a few bells for you? Let me add a few more terms. Benzai, kamikaze. Sound familiar now? If you're thinking of World War II, you're exactly right. Japanese philosophy, as well as their relatively progressive technology, made Japan's advance nearly unstoppable throughout Asia. Never doubting their superiors, soldiers were perfectly content to run straight at their opponents into near certain death. Indeed, in the case of the kamikaze pilots, they did fly into certain death. But this mentality only ended up causing tragedy for Japan. Up to 200,000 deaths may have been caused solely by the 2 nuclear bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1995. Unlike the samurai, unlike the Japanese soldiers, these deaths could not be seen as heroic or brave or befitting. Men, women and children alike were vaporized by the bomb if they were lucky. Many others suffered painful and brutal deaths soon after from exposure to nuclear radiation and burns, and others later from tumours caused by radiation mutating cells in their body. Whether less or more casualties would have been caused by other methods is a matter for debate, but the surrender soon after the bombs were dropped marked the beginning of the end for Bushido. Japan became a pacifist nation after witnessing the true horror war wreaked on their own civilians, albeit many still ignore the atrocities they committed on others today. This can be seen in Kobayashi's Harakiri, released in 1962. This movie is all about the hypocrisy and worthlessness of traditional Japanese values. It follows a samurai named Tsukoro, who has lost his superior and is now unemployed as a ronin. The samurai comes to the castle of the local rulers, the Ii clan, who are supposedly devout followers of the Bushido code, and asks the councillor to commit ritual suicide in their courtyard, rather than passively waiting for his own death. The councillor attempts to dissuade him, relating a story of a young man called Motome, who came to their clan with the same request, usually met with a small amount of money just to get rid of the samurai. The clan called Motome's bluff and forced him to commit suicide with his own sword, a cheap thing made out of bamboo, causing him excruciating pain and humiliation. Our samurai insists on committing harakiri, and what happens next is cinema at its finest. Tsukoro asks for 3 specific men to be his second, an essential figure needed for the ritual to take place. One after another, each is too unwell to be seen. What a strange coincidence. Our samurai chuckles. We learn, spoilers ahead by the way, and I do recommend you watch that movie, that our samurai is in fact Motome's father-in-law. Motome was driven to desperation to get money as his wife and son lay dying of fever, and they had no money to pay a doctor. Tsukoro took the head buns of each of the 3 men who insisted Motome should die, and do so by his own bamboo sword. The removal of the top bun was an inexcusable dishonor in Japan, and each of the men should have committed harakiri according to Bushido law. However, each pretended to be sick until their hair grew back. The councillor, humiliated, orders his men to kill Tsukoro. Killing 4 and wounding 8, Tsukoro staggers through the rooms of the Ii palace, reaching the ceremonial red armor of the clan, a symbol of the Ii's noble ancestry and adherence to Samurai Bushido code. He picks it up and throws it on the floor, breaking it apart. The samurai back away from Tsukoro as he is shot by muskets. The movie ends with the councillor ordering the men to report that Tsukoro had honourably committed the ritual suicide and that his own casualties died due to sickness. We'll hear a voiceover of the shogun, ruler of Japan, praising the councillor for his nobility and adherence to Bushido. So, what does this all mean? Well, throughout the film, the main message is that Bushido is a mere illusion. It is barely even believed by those who profess to follow it. The dishonour of the Ii's samurai proves that. The buns taken from their heads symbolises just how easy it is to take away and dispose of someone's honour, and thus how insubstantial it really is. Perhaps the most powerfully symbolic moment of the movie, however, is the moment when Tsukoro throws down the red armour of the Ii clan. In this moment, Tsukoro exposes how hollow the Ii's ideals, and by extension Bushido ideals, really are. They are a suit of armour without a man inside it, carried not by actual belief, but rather by illusion. Indeed, the clan is not even able to kill the samurai with honour, resorting to guns to do the job from a distance. An innocent, happy family is destroyed as a consequence. This reflects Japanese collective conscience on Bushido, or at least its militaristic aspects after World War II. Instead of being met with glory, the Japanese were met with death and suffering. So World War II was undeniably the death of at least that form of Bushido. Japan became, as said before, a pacifist state, reflecting instead upon the other values of Bushido, that of humility, respect, tradition, and so forth. It is worth considering whether these values will ever resurface. Certainly, the pacifist days of Japan will come and are coming to an end. Shinzo Abe, the current Prime Minister, earlier this year pressed for an expansion of the Japanese military forces to combat ISIS after it executed 2 of its citizens in videos addressed to him. The days of the samurai may be forever gone, but for the code that they inspired, the outcome is not so certain.